It's Rog, here at an epic time. We're here to talk a little Gregg Berhalter and the breaking news that came yesterday out of US soccer, but also to tell you all you need to know about the 2024 Copa América Final, baby! We've reached the final of this Copa das Copas after 32 games, sprinkled over 25 days in 14 different venues across the United States. A champion will finally be crowned, lifting a freshly polished silver trophy on the hallowed ground of Miami's Hard Rock Stadium. Oh, great wings. A stadium which has hosted 6 Super Bowls, 4 U2 concerts, and most importantly, WrestleMania 28, where The Rock took down John Cena. Oh, respect the people's elbow. And this past month, it's been about everything we could possibly want from the Copa, outside of, the United States actually playing good football. We've watched thousands of diehard supporters, most of whom have had to Google how to remove sky blue face paint. We've seen multiple think pieces about the correlation between good football and drinking mate. We've also seen the kind of questionable prison rules, refereeing decisions that make us almost miss Anthony Taylor. And here, to help me make sense of it all and to look ahead to Sunday's showdown for the ages between defending champion Argentina and one-time winner Colombia, it's a gent who looks like he could unplug his headphones and still hold his own on the pitch, just like he did for your US men's national team when he played in the 2007 Copa against both Argentina and Colombia. I think you lost to them both. Well done, sir. From ESPN, where he's been hosting Football Americas almost nightly. It's been amazing to see his beautiful face on SportsCenter on the regs. He's the host of Vamos here on the Men in Blazers Media Network too. It's my friend. It's the mighty Herc Gomez.
Raj, it is so good to see you, my man. I missed you. I missed your intros. I've been working nonstop and nothing has brought a smile to my face like your intro. So it's very good to see you.
Do they not give you all this smoke when you're on SportsCenter, baby?
Oh my goodness. I'm just happy they know my name on SportsCenter. Come on.
Get on it, Keith Oberman, or whoever is hosting SportsCenter nowadays. Herc, we're going to
Linda
get
Cohen. Come on, Linda.
LC, get on it. Herc, we are going to get to the kung fu fighting that is the impending Copa Final. But first, we've got to acknowledge the incredible team at Dove Men+Care who bring me such joy and are making this podcast possible, because it's a show in which we can talk about this seismic news out of US soccer. Gregg Berhalter, who was fired on Wednesday afternoon, while they think that everyone assumed they were all too busy watching England manager Gareth Southgate's post-game interview and wouldn't be refreshing our Twitter feeds and notice. Gregg, presumably, even as we speak, is packing his office into a cardboard box, which I like to think of as just filled with Starbucks mugs and sneaker wipes and customised AJ1s. Trust me, nobody is taking this news harder than the shoe surgeon. But in a news release, US Soccer Sporting Director Matt Crocker, the man who'd rehired Gregg Berhalter after Reign-a-Gate in the round of 16 exit in the 2022 World Cup, said that Berhalter and his US team had not met, quote, benchmarks. Although he said there's been progress made, but now is the time to turn that progress into winning. Now, when Gregg was hired, December 2018, the United States was 25th in the FIFA rankings. Almost 6 years later, we're 11th. Sounds great, it doesn't feel so good. We've conquered CONCACAF trinkets along the way, Gold Cups, Leagues Cups, plural. It felt like we never had a signature win though. We never took on a big team and beat them outside of a flailing Mexico. Berhalter's record against non-CONCACAF opponents was pretty horrible. Herc, can you put into words what progress this United States team made in the past 6 years as you see it?
I know a lot of fans, Raj, want blood in times like this, right? They want to kick a guy while he's down in Gregg Berhalter. They want to see him go out the window, on to the next. But you do have to give thanks to Gregg Berhalter for what he did. He took a very young team in a very dark moment and qualified him for the World Cup. And in qualifying that very young team for the World Cup, you dominated a Mexican team that you've not dominated in years and probably ever in this fashion, winning constant titles, albeit in your confederation, but that's what you had to win, and he won those. He got this team out of the World Cup group phase, a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of kids, into the second round. That benchmark was cleared. And you also have to give thanks to how he went about the dual national process and recruitment. There are a lot of players like Serginho Dest, Anthony Robinson, Yunus Musa, Ricardo Pepi, that I really think he went about it the right way. Even the ones he didn't land, Julian Araujo, those type of guys speak very well of a Gregg Berhalter. I really think he went about it the right way. So there's a lot of positives in the beginning and how he did certain things. But the reality is, a lot of these benchmarks were not only not met, but there was a regression with this team. And when people look at this firing, I urge them not to see it as a knee-jerk reaction to a Copa America group phase, to a bad moment against Panama where Timothy Weah gets red carded. It's much more than that. I mean, we can go back to the fiasco that was the post-World Cup, the Giovanni Reyna and the Reyna's Berhalter saga. We can go back to the allegations made. We can go back to how it just would have been easier to walk away. And yet they chose to go with Gregg Berhalter. And in that time, the regression. You can bring up the top 20 record that Gregg Berhalter has, or lack thereof. You could bring up the poor Copa America group phase. You could bring up the lack of winning or even competing away in CONCACAF. And all these things are accumulation of. And quite frankly, it looked like the players got complacent. We can sit here and talk Gregg Berhalter for as long as we want, but these players, a lot of these players vouched for Gregg Berhalter, and it looks like they got complacent, rested on their laurels, and now Gregg Berhalter is out of a job. So we have to put a lot of blame here as well on the players and Matt Crocker.
In a statement, Gregg said for his part, he was, quote, proud of the identity we built on and off the field. And I'll be candid, to add to the accolades, the achievements of the Gregg Berhalter tenure, I said last night on our YouTube reaction show to this news that to me, Gregg's greatest achievement was to restore a sense of good vibes around the US men's national team camp. Brotherhood, in the words of the players. It was impossible to interview one of the US regulars without hearing that word at least twice. That kind of brotherhood had been totally frittered away in that 14-month purgatory of interim management post-failure to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. But on the field, and there is a thin line, I think, between brotherhood and good vibes and that complacency, just like there's a thin line between love and hate. There is a thin line between feeling great and feeling just too good, too settled, entitled, privilege. It's a slope from one wonderful thing to an erratic lack of self-control that ends to the Tim Weah right hook, which ended it all. But on the field, Herc, where we've had no definitive number one in the run-up to World Cup 2022, we've had a shuffling search for a striker that's been ongoing with the personnel ever-changing. We've not even had a defined captain. What do you see as this team's identity right now? What does the next manager have to build on?
Well, you've got to build on a young, exciting group. You've got a lot of speed in transition. When disciplined, when they try to play a pragmatic approach, I think it suits them. This is a team that can cause a lot of trouble, and I don't care who you are. They can cause you trouble. Regardless of what you thought of England in the World Cup, regardless of what you thought of Brazil pre-Copa America, this is a team that when they're in their best moment at their ceiling can give any team in the world fits. That's not the issue here. The issue is when you try to play a progressive style of football that they get in trouble with, when you try building out of the back in a constant way against opponents who quite frankly will look for that. It's that constant need for validation under Gregg Berhalter that has got the U.S. men's national team in trouble. I understand you want to change the way the world views American soccer. But the rest of the world, international football, they don't care. They just want to win. Look at two programs that are constant winners. In the European side, France. On the South American side, Argentina. These two teams are constantly playing in finals. And they have world-class players like an Mbappe, a Griezmann, Angel Di Maria, Lionel Messi. And they don't try to play progressive football. They are pragmatic, they are stingy, and they are lethal when need be. And they have world-class players. Why does the U.S. men's national team want to be different or thinking can play differently than world football? World football is not like that. So this constant need for validation, like we can play with the best of them this style, this way, has gotten them in trouble. So I will say it's a very interesting pool for whoever the manager is. Whoever the next manager is, I think there's a lot of material to play with.
I could not agree more. Furthermore, like the fans of France and England, I mean, England have just crap themselves all the way to a Euro final. They've mediocred themselves towards a Euro final. But their fans are not sitting around waiting to be dazzled by the United States men's national team and be shown that the Americans can play ball too. The only thing that ultimately matters that speaks to that, it's not the style, it's just winning, which I do believe this programme can do. There was a naivete and a very slow learning curve to this era. You could say the Grexit has been coming. You can say you can't make an omelette without breaking some Greggs. But in this second coming, it has been surreal. A vocal majority, let's call it that, of US fans were never won over by this second phase. That noise turned to 11 after US were grouped in the Copa, forcing all of us to both learn and use group as a verb. That may be one of your greatest contributions to the world of football, Herc. It's definitely up there. Matt Crocker now says that the search for the next coach is already underway. This is a quick segue. I hope to God the search has been going on for months, to be candid, because it should have been. Ultimately, strategic football programs are always planning for Plan B. That's a segue we do not have time to get into today, and we will see. But it has to be said, some remarkable names, some deeply aspirational names have been thrown out. We need to start with one former Liverpool manager, the Teutonic Care Bear, Jurgen Klopp, man who spent his summer going to Taylor Swift concerts, becoming everyone's favourite Instagram dad, teasing American fans with his cryptic July 4th post in which he reflected upon his love of our nation. This morning, Miguel Delaney in The Independent reported that contacts have been made to Klopp's representatives. These kind of stories ultimately always have different elements of truth, different reps, different sides of the party briefing the media for different reasons. I will say, it is a scintillating prospect. The opportunity for a manager to be the face of American football during a World Cup on home turf is honestly, for an agent, it would be the most commercially compelling thing for your manager to do. What, 18 months and you get to be famous in the United States forever with all the commercial riches that go with it? What truth do you put on the Klopp United States rumours, Herc? I thought US soccer was slightly allergic to Jurgens.
They may be, but that was a different regime. Let's hope the ambition of this current regime, after what I assume would see as a failure, the post Gregg Berhalter 2022 experiment, they would need to go a different route, show ambition. And regardless if they can actually land Jurgen Klopp, only Jurgen Klopp knows if he really wants the job. But if there's an outside chance, and there's somebody, a manager like Jurgen Klopp, who's flirting with you, who is just dangling the carrot out, you've got to try. You have to try. It's been debunked that the money is not an issue here. And we look at the women's side. Emma Hayes is regarded by many as the best manager in the women's game. They reset the market on the women's side to go get the best manager in the game. Regardless if they can land the best manager in the game on the men's side, you have to show the ambition. It's a World Cup on home soil, a singular moment in time that you can capitalize on. And if there's a chance, if you're telling me there's a chance, shoot your shot. Whether you land him or not, that's the shot you should be taking.
Jurgen Klopp, come be with us. We will send David Hasselhoff the other way in this trade. I know Germans love that man. I personally promise I will build you a padel court because I know that will tempt you. That will sweeten the deal. GFOP at BDomingue86 insted us and said, hear me out. Let's offer Jurgen Klopp both the managership and the presidency. You know what? I will pull out all the stops if that's what it takes. Matt Crocker is dropping hints about what he's thinking. He's hinted he's going big. Serial winner, I think, is the word that he's used. Big money. It's breathed life into the other long shot massive names. Carlo Ancelotti, Pochettino, also fanficked into the picture a lot. And they rattle through the back page speculation alongside more realistic suggestions like Steve Cherundolo from LAFC, remarkable human being, a relatively raw manager. Hard not to see him almost being Gregg Berhalter 2.0 in terms of his experience, although obviously his Bundesliga playing background will probably give him a very different POV. Wilfred Nancy from the Columbus Crew, and CBS pundit turned French Olympic manager Thierry Henry, former US men's national team player Freddie Adu, who's somehow getting a lot of air right now. He's recommended Hervé Renard, the most joyous gentleman who's never heard of shirt buttons. Who needs them? He's coached 8 different national teams. That swarthy, deeply handsome human being, most recently Saudi Arabia and the French women. I believe if he gets his 9th team, he automatically qualifies for a free hotel stay. Herc, what kind of coach does this team need? Let's talk about that in order to not only prepare for the 2026 World Cup, but to progress tactically, mentally, towards the team of our dreams.
Let me stay with Jurgen Klopp for a second. I love the style, the heavy metal, right? The in-your-face transition, high press that you can be at times, full throttle type of football. In a tournament, if you can be pragmatic at times and just efficient with your speed and transitions, you can hurt plenty of teams. Listen, nobody's saying win the World Cup, but you go to a team like Morocco, who last World Cup did wonders and played a very pragmatic style of football. It was almost 11 guys hanging from the crossbar and everybody defended, and you transition and it was set pieces. I heard nobody talking about how ugly their football was. I heard an amazing run, and they were in a group with Belgium, the golden generation, Croatia, the World Cup finalist. They got out to Spain. They got out to Portugal. They got out and they faced France. It was a valiant effort, and everybody was talking about that great run. There's no reason why on home soil the U.S. couldn't do something like that, when in the past we've seen the Turkeys, we've seen the South Koreas, we've seen the Moroccos, we've seen these type of teams be the surprise teams. You can do that on home soil. So the manager's crucial. It's going to play a massive part in this. I would prefer a manager that's not so much progressive in style and can get the most out of those players. That screams a guy like Jurgen Klopp. Now, whether you land him or not, the manager comes in, has to understand it's a singular moment in time to do something special. And I think managers like this are few and far between. There are tournament managers out there. I think Jurgen Klopp can be one of them. Jose Mourinho, Thomas Tuchel. Those type of managers are tournament managers. People don't like hearing Thomas Tuchel, right? Because it's a long season. But if you look at the 7-game span of the tournaments he is in, he gets his teams to compete. Those are the type of managers that I want at the helm.
But that dude's never going to give up club football. He sees himself the elite right now. To jump into international football, ultimately, that's, you want to work on your golf game. You become an international football manager. You want to take a break from the stress, or you're kind of towards the end of your career. I mean, realistically, what kind of a gentleman do you believe within that realm of non-fan fiction? Or if you could name one man to lead this team, who would it be?
I go back to Jurgen Klopp because this is an 18-month job. I'm not asking the manager to stick around and be here for 4 more years after the World Cup. This is a singular moment. I go back to a singular moment. So I want a man for this job in that moment. And to me, the perfect manager would be a Jurgen Klopp. I know we can easily throw around names like Zinedine Zidane, Pep Guardiola, Carlo Ancelotti, Pochettino, who's never won anything. These type of managers. And they could be realistic because it's an 18-month job. You're done after this. I don't expect this manager to stick around.
You don't? That's madness. You don't think they're going to want to defend the title?
The Nations League title?
Can you imagine? Jurgen, you got to do a second cycle. There's the Gold Cup coming, baby. By the way, just in, as we pod from David Ornstein, oh my God, this is dark. We spoke it into existence and we've killed it. Jurgen Klopp says 9 to the US men's national team. That's according to David Ornstein, who knows what he's talking about. He's reporting legendary ex-Liverpool manager. I'm going to take down all the posters that I'd Photoshop Jurgen wearing state sweatshirts that are over my bed. I'm going to take them all down. He has reiterated his intention to take a break from football. Come and take a break from football over here, Jurg. It's what the Gold Cup is, baby. CONCACAF. Herc, isn't CONCACAF the ultimate break from football?
Absolutely. To what you were saying earlier, how these things get planted, Raj. U.S. soccer here can now say, well, we tried, Our ambition was there. They didn't want us. And quite frankly, they're going to need to keep trying and trying and trying because fans aren't going to be content if it's, with all due respect, and I say this with all due respect of Steve Cherundolo, who's catching strays right now. Like, Steve Cherundolo had a very good playing career, and he's been a very good young manager, but I think the ambition right now is to move on from domestic American coach and get a next level coach. But U.S. Soccer right now, with this singular move, and you know how these things get planted into the press, can now say, we tried Jurgen Klopp. They can move on to the next and can now say, we tried that coach.
What I can say is my phone is blowing up as we speak, and a couple of journalists who I trust and are well sourced ultimately said that the approach from US Soccer was serious and genuine. So what I take from this, we're now turning into Sky Sports with some roiling breaking news together, Herc. I think what we can take from this is a sense of positivity and optimism. If this was, and it is said to be, a very keen approach, I think it shows that US Soccer, in terms of their ambition, at least at one end of the spectrum, are looking big, trying to do something bigger. It doesn't mean every coach that's in their portfolio is going to be that kind of a big whale, but Godspeed, Jurgen. By the way, even though you've said no, we'll always be around for a second opinion. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I do believe that the United States powers that be, and we have to be clear here, Don Garber, the commissioner of MLS, is on the board of US Soccer, and is always, in everything he does, he's incredibly influential and is a deeply powerful operator within the American football landscape. There is no doubt they originally wanted an American coach, an American face of this team to lead it at this American World Cup 2026. Even though we know, honestly, I said this a lot last night, it went a lot deeper than I'm going to have time to do so now. And it hurts me to say this, but we need to be honest. American coaching, for various reasons, is still light years behind the gold standard in Europe. We're still very much a coaching backwater. Hurts to say it, but it's true. To me, there's nothing American fans love more than winning. And so there's nothing we would love more than a coach who wins. Never mind where they're from. But what traits do you believe the next United States coach should have to both reinvigorate this squad and to reinvigorate the United States supporter base, which I actually think in this moment is equally as important?
Yeah, I don't think it could be a low-profile coach, not only in name, but in stature. You can't have a soft-spoken coach. I think right now you need to inspire the fan base, bring back that belief. And with these players, there is a growing sense among the American fan base and pundits that these players got complacent, that these players were running the team, that they were choosing what happened and when it happened. I believe they need a manager, these players, to keep them on their toes every single time. They can't feel like their position on the U.S. men's national team is safe. They need to feel uncomfortable, just as they would at their clubs. They need to feel like every single time they play for that jersey could be the last time they play for that jersey.
Oh, God bless. I had a nightmare last night where US Soccer went out and got iShow Speed. They got Speed to come in and be the manager. Show the world.
Just barking at him.
Yeah. By the way, now you're saying that, I'm open to it. I'd love to hear his opening speech. We're going to show the world that American football. Woof, woof. You know what? Rather than go off the speed deep end, let's move on to football, sweet football, and Sunday's Copa Final. CONMEBOL get their dream. Messi in the city built with his own hands. Miami. With his defending champion, your 15-time Copa America winners Argentina, World Cup champions Argentina, who in this tournament, which you've watched every single second of with the most keen eye I've seen them play with quite fascinating, complex, deft combination of football arte and football força. The beautiful side they're capable of. They're also, my God, willing to drop an elbow and get into the dark arts and match anybody in terms of the intensity of that department. So watching a Caravaggio painting in Adidas Climacool shirts. They've got the ability to skillfully slice a team apart. They can shithouse with the best of them. I think the apogee is 30-year-old midfielder Rodrigo de Paul. Honestly, classic showroom demonstration of both under the leadership of 46-year-old coach Lionel Scaloni. He's re-energized Argentina. They played 61 games in the past 5 years. They've won 45. They've lost only 2 to Uruguay in last fall's World Cup qualifiers, and that improbable 2-1 World Cup loss to Saudi Arabia, the Buster Douglas of Group C, under Hervé Renard in their opening match of that tournament. Herc, when you've watched Argentina, the Copa América 2024 Argentina, what differs, if anything, from the team that won the World Cup less than 2 years ago?
The level of Lionel Messi. It's not at the level that he was at the World Cup. He scored 7 goals at the World Cup. I don't care how many penalty kicks it was. He was a man possessed. He was on a mission. He's not quite been healthy throughout this tournament. He picked up an injury versus Chile in his leg, and that really slowed him down versus Ecuador. It's probably the worst game I've seen from Messi in Argentina in quite some time. And I thought they were very fortunate to get out with the win, albeit in penalty kicks, where Lionel Messi actually misses a penalty kick. He tries Panenka. Dominguez, the goalkeeper, hits a crossbar, and it doesn't go in. I thought they were very fortunate. In that game, Ecuador played him off the field. And quite frankly, Jordi Caicedo, the Ecuadorian center forward, comes on, had a moment to finish the game off in the dying seconds of that game, a point-blank header that he misses. So I repeat, the level of Lionel Messi in Argentina in this tournament is not comparable to what was Qatar. They just played their best game versus Canada. And you have to give Canada major props to what they did in this tournament and how they went about it. But the best game that we've seen from Argentina has come against Canada. Their side of the bracket, we could draw parallels to the English Euro side of the bracket and how maybe things have lined up in their favor, and the majority of the dangers on the other side of the bracket, and how CONMEBOL and CONCACAF and this Copa America have made the road to the final very accessible, and it goes through Miami, which we know is home for Lionel Messi. You look at the other side of the bracket, Colombia, 28-game unbeaten streak. Uruguay, one of the hottest teams right now in South America. Brazil, for as limited as their player pool is today, and the problems they have is still Brazil. And you look at everything on that side of the bracket and what they had to do to get to this final and how it kind of lines up for Argentina, and you're like, whoa, this is interesting. But Argentina is one of the most dangerous teams in the world. You just said their record. They only have 2 losses in plus 60 games. They're a team that's not played up to their level right now, which I think is scary because at any moment they can play up to their level and play you off the field. But it's not been easy for them, and we've got to keep that in mind. But they do hold players that can change the game, and one of those is Messi, who is arguably the greatest player who's ever played the game, who can at any time, under the lights, turn it on. And the other one is Angel Di Maria, who will be playing his last international fixture for Argentina. The last time we see Angel Di Maria in a uniform will be this final. And remember his last 2 finals, Raj. A goal against Brazil, Copa América Final in Brazil, match winner. A goal against France in the Qatar final. Okay? He's got a big moment play about him. It's his last time he will ever wear this Argentine jersey.
He always looks to me like a football painter as if painted by Modigliani. But we have to choose one man for our Dove Men+Care performance player to watch, and it can only be the one, the only, Lamine Yamal's bath giver, Lionel Messi. It's been 19 years and 3 different Batman actors since Leo Messi made his senior debut for Argentina. He came on as a sub during a friendly against Hungary, August 2005. I think he was on the field for less than a minute before being sent off, but 186 caps have ensued, 109 goals. He's now 37 years of age. That's actually 5 years older than Lamine Yamal's actual dad. He's come to the end of his international career. He said, "I'm conscious these are the last battles." What a poet. Came into the tournament, as you say, battling a hip adductor. He was rested for the group stage game against Peru. He missed a penalty against Ecuador. Didn't score his first goal until being a spoiler against Jesse Marsh in Canada in that semi-final. It was 10 years ago that the Irish journalist Ken Early, he wrote that when Messi played with Argentina, quote, teammates gave him the ball, then waited to see what he'd do with it, though some of them felt like they weren't worthy to combine with him. Herc, this tournament has taught us that is no longer the case. What has shifted? How have Messi's teammates learned to play with him instead of just around him?
That's a great question, because people don't realize how many different players Argentina, that pool, have had around Messi, and they've not been able to win. I mean, 2010, Copa Americas before that, 2014, they made it to the final. Like, Messi was carrying that team. If not for Gonzalo Higuain and the terrible misses, like, Messi has his first World Cup championship in 2014, 15, 16 Copa America finals. The 18 way they went out to France in that World Cup, to 20, finally winning, or 21, finally winning the Copa America, 22, the World Cup. There have been so many different players around him, more talented players than they have now. But the key is these players, this young group, because Messi is the veteran of this group, but this young group have learned how to rally around Messi, how to play with Messi. I go back to the Ecuador game for Argentina in this Copa America. That midfield, Enzo Fernandez, not up to snuff. Rodrigo de Paul wasn't playing well. Alexis McAllister wasn't his normal self. They need to be strong. They need to be running for Messi so Messi can do what he does. And that's where Julian Alvarez, his strike partner, comes so much into play. The Man City man is a dangerous forward, can score a variety of ways, but he's on there to do the dirty work for Messi. So Messi at 37 years old can shine. I think they've learned how to work with and for Messi, and that has allowed Scaloni to get the best out of Messi. And I repeat, we've not seen the best out of Messi this tournament, which is a scary thing.
It is a scary thing, as is the fact that he's playing the hard rock. Him naturally doesn't do it for commercial reasons, just being such a hard rock aficionado. He just loves their wings. But you mentioned Scaloni, the young manager, appointed 2018, the real low for the Argentinian programme, knocked out of the World Cup by France in the round of 16. A lot more senior possibilities who could have taken the job: Diego Simeone, Mauricio Pochettino. Diego Maradona, when he was appointed, called him a kid, but he proceeded to win the World Cup. Having won the 2019 Copa, he ended up beating Italy in the Finalissima, which pits the Copa champion against the Euros winner. Just his calm, his sense of cool, his deep man management has been remarkable. Nowhere more than in the goalkeeper department. I think he played 7 different goalkeepers in his first 49 games before giving Emi Martinez the chance. He debuted in a World Cup qualifier against Chile, June 2021, started the summer's Copa, but only because Argentina's then first choice was ill. But since then, he's been more of an impact player than pretty well any other Argentinian player, not named Lionel Messi. I'm not trying to think about what kind of gestures he'll make when the Copa Trophy is awarded, possibly if they win in Miami, but I can't not think about it. He seems to have taken the goalkeeper's cue to make yourself big and just applied it to his whole personality. He's trash-talked, intimidated, hip-thrusted, strutted his way to 9 penalty saves in shootouts for Argentina. He's contributed to his opponent's 3 misses too along the way. You've played as a striker against big personality keepers. How does having a number 1 like Martinez behind these players affect how the entire team plays? Could his mentality, his feelings of invincibility, could it set the tone for the other 10 in front of him?
Absolutely. I think oftentimes when we talk about Dibu Martinez, the antics are the first thing we talk about, and it gets in the way of how actually good of a goalkeeper he is. For my money, the best international goalie in the game. The numbers are there. And I'm a United fan. And it's been terrible to be a United fan. And to think that Erik ten Hag went out for Onana when he had Dibu Martinez at his disposal, and he said, no, we got this. Onana, come on in. It's insane to me how good this goalkeeper is. The antics, to me, are antics, but he's a very good goalkeeper. Colomani, World Cup final, the massive stick save. That could have been a different story if he's not there. So when you have a goalkeeper behind you that is so sure of himself and backs it up the way he does on the field and constantly keeps you in games, oh man, that's a game changer. As much of a game changer as Lionel Messi, it really is.
Godspeed. There is another team in the final, and they are magnificent. Colombia, who are appearing just their second Copa Final. Last one came in 2001 when they beat, I crap you not, Mexico. Yes, young listeners, Mexico were once good at football. They won that game 1-0 to win the tournament. In 2021, they faced Argentina in the semi-finals. They lost on penalties. Oh, it was Emi Martinez who came up with 3 massive saves. And Los Cafeteros are currently on this remarkable 28-game unbeaten streak, stretching back to February 2022, when they lost to Argentina during World Cup qualifiers. They've not lost since. In came manager Nestor Lorenzo. He's worn the same suit for every game. And after Wednesday night's dogfight of a win over Uruguay, he said, until you overcome your weaknesses, you cannot grow. That's a life truth, not just a footballing one. Herc, what weaknesses have Colombia overcome? What's made them so resilient, so dangerous? To me, they've looked like the best team in the tournament so far.
They have been the best team in the tournament. I mean, I'll draw a parallel to the Euros. They're the Spain of this tournament. That's how good they've been, and they've got incredible balance. Incredible balance, and they can hurt you in a variety of ways. There are teams that don't have a plan B or can't be versatile in how they attack you and how they hurt you. Colombia can. They didn't make it to the World Cup in 2022 for a lack of talent. They did not make it because they couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, Raj. They had 7 straight games where they couldn't score a goal in World Cup qualification, and they're out. But this run goes back to that World Cup qualification process. Very, very well-balanced team defensively in that midfield, whether it's Richard Rios or Arias on one side, or Jefferson Lerma, who's been one of the best players in this tournament. In front of him, Cordoba, the way he holds the ball, the way he runs. James Rodriguez, who looks like a different player when he's with this Colombian national team. His club level, and you're an Everton fan, you will know the lack of club level has not been lost upon fans. They understand what he's not at the club level now, but when he puts that yellow jersey on, he transforms. 6 assists in this tournament. Listen to what I'm saying. The best playmaking left-footed number 10 in this tournament is James Rodriguez. He's been that good. Luis Diaz, who's a game changer, an X factor, who can absolutely turn a game on his head. And when they were faced with adversity, when one of their best players, in Daniel Munoz, who's a right back, and I'm saying is one of their best players, was their leading goal scorer in this tournament, a player that gives them so much, being an outlet on that right-hand side, foolishly gets a red card at the end of the first half. So you got to go into the second half against a high-octane, one-man-up Uruguay team coached by Marcelo Bielsa, pressing you from all angles. They find a way to not only win, but get constant opportunities in front of the Uruguayan net, where if Mateus Uribe, the second half substitute in the midfield, is a little more precise on his day, he scores 2 and it's a 3-1 victory. Because I go back to Camilo Vargas, their goalkeeper, the Colombian goalkeeper. How many times was he actually tested? Luis Suarez had one rocked off the post. That was about it. I never saw him make a save. So if you go into the actual shots on target, I believe Uruguay had one shot on target. Colombia is as balanced and as dangerous of a team as you will find in any competition around the world. And there's a reason they are going on 28 games unbeaten. They're the real deal here.
Let's talk about James for a second. I don't just mean that because he's an Everton legend. Played less than 5 hours of football for Brazil. Sao Paulo, his domestic club this season. He was left out of Colombia's squad during the last Copa, and he's almost like a footballing Michael Jordan meme. He took that personally. He has been the best player at this Copa. The Colombian jersey, as it has so often in his career, sits so well on him. Completed more passes than any other player in this tournament. Against Uruguay, as you say, became the first player to have 6 assists in one Copa ever. Turns 33 tomorrow. But he's never looked as threatening. I mean, he looks like the James Rodriguez who won the Golden Boot at the 2014 World Cup. Do you understand, Herc, this Rodriguez-sance And what will Argentina need to do to control him?
So I look at the spine of this team. Camilo Vargas, Davinson Sanchez, Jefferson Lerma, James Rodriguez. James Rodriguez through the spine and this team is the heartbeat of this team. He controls the tempo. As James Rodriguez goes, Colombia goes. As he heats up, Colombia heats up. Whether it's a set piece or the rhythm of the game or a nice little pass or a switch of the field, he sets the tempo. I thought Uruguay were very good in the opening sequences of this game in controlling James Rodriguez. And that was Betancourt, the player that Marcelo Bielsa put to man-mark James Rodriguez. James Rodriguez walks one way, Betancourt walked with him. You've got to try to make the game go through somebody else. If you're Argentina, I don't know if that's going to be Enzo Fernandez. I don't know if that's going to be Lo Celso if he comes in. I don't know if it's going to be Rodrigo de Paul. Whoever the case may be in that midfield or by committee, you cannot allow James Rodriguez to dictate the tempo of this game because he will murder you. He will kill the game. He will make it a Colombian possession game. He will make it a game where they lull you to sleep and then a change of attack and it's 1v1 with Luis Diaz or a set piece and it's a Jefferson Lerma or a Davinson Sanchez who are very, very good in what they do. You cannot allow Colombia to be in this game because of James Rodriguez. If you can take James Rodriguez out of this equation, Argentina will have a good match.
So it's time, Herc. Set the scene for us. What do you expect from Sunday's final? And who's leaving with that trophy?
Whoa. I just sat here and told you how international football has been dominated by France and Argentina. But I cannot ignore the two levels of the team. And what Colombia has shown me, not just in this tournament, but in those 28 games, is a resolve and a willingness to beat you in a variety of ways. I just think they have more in that toolkit. And I don't know how fit Lionel Messi is. And we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. These fields have been subpar. They've been heavy. I look at a Colombia team while they played a man down and it's going to be a day less of rest. They had the luxury all tournament of resting players versus Panama. The likes of James Rodriguez, Luis Diaz, their important players were coming out. Arias, Richard Rios, they were coming out in the 60th minute. It's a more well-rested team. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, they are a team that right now is in a better moment versus what I think will be a team in Argentina that is still a little unsure of themselves because they've not been tested in that way. And when they have been tested to the likes of Ecuador, they left it up to chance. They left it up to penalty kicks. But I do not know who the home team will be here. I see an unbelievable home atmosphere every time Colombia plays. I see a very pro-Messi crowd everywhere he goes. It's in Miami, very rich in Colombians. I really do feel this is a pick'em. But since it's a pick'em, and since I don't understand the health of Lionel Messi, and I've not seen him at his best, I will take, with the eye test, Colombia. I think this will be a game that goes... Now, there is overtime in the final. There has not been overtime till this final. There will be overtime, so I'm going to go 1-1 draw in overtime. I think it's going to be Colombia to outlast Argentina.
God bless. I had actually, on my game notes, all we know is it's going to be close, there'll be violence, but in the end there'll be Dibu Martinez glory on penalties. That game, 8 p.m. On Big Fox. It'll be the finale. It'll be your last Lallas, America. Get your hankies ready for that one. One quick one before we wrap up, and then one serious question. I do need to ask you, one of the pieces of wonder of this tournament was Canada's journey into the semi-final. Jesse Marsch has had that team for 7 games. You can look at them and say they barely scored a goal. They had in the knockout rounds a kind draw. However you want to marginalise what he did. There's a theory. It wasn't his success. It was really the legacy of John Herdman. Can you just put into words what you saw? Because to me, it was joyous. The beginning of a Jesse Marsch redemption story. For him, probably all the sweeter as the United States men's national team imploded. Can you just give us your sense, your quick sense, a quick burst on how Jesse Marsch should be feeling at the end of Canada's Copa journey?
Jesse Marsch should be feeling a bit of redemption. I know he feels like he was hard done by U.S. soccer and he was the man for the job and they pulled the rug from underneath him. Canada and Jesse Marsch had a tournament that the U.S. men's national team and the Mexican national team could only dream of. They are where these two nations wish they were in this tournament. And I can't imagine how many people in Canada watched the most important game in the history of the men's Canadian soccer program. Jesse Marsch now has something to build on with a very, very interesting player pool, and they're a team to watch out for in this region.
Oh, God bless. And as we speak his name, news just breaking, Jesse Marsch said in a statement issued by Canada Soccer that he's not considering nor interested in the position at US Soccer. He's completely focused on Canada. Of course he is. I honestly think the best thing for US Soccer is that Jesse Marsch stays there, builds that program, and we have a true wonder rivalry to the north. One last question for you, Herc. This tournament, the Copa, it has been a thing of wonder for this nation to host, but it's not been without its foibles. You mentioned the truly terrible fields, which have been shameful in some places. The often empty stadia for teams who were not Argentina, Colombia, or Mexico. We know CONMEBOL marketed this tournament horribly. It was very chaotic behind the scenes. The television ratings have been reportedly half of what the Euros have been, which is quite extraordinary. One competition's in Europe in the afternoon US time, the other's on home turf in prime time. And I know it's not CONMEBOL's mission to grow the game in the United States, but the combination of the United States men's national team's profound failure, and I think the low impact generally of this tournament, in comparison to the delirium of the Euros, has been painful for me to watch, to be candid. I know you're super close to it. Herc, I know you've lived it every night. You've been in the belly of the Copa beast. But in terms of growing the game in the United States, do you think the Copa has been a success? Or has all of it happened inside our glorious but small and needing to grow soccer bubble?
Yeah, the vacuum we live in is a dangerous one because we got to realize what the rest of the world sees. And what the rest of the world sees is a dry run for the World Cup that's been a disaster. These fields, I mean, the first group phase game, you had players coming out to injury. The stands, the fields, the violence we saw in the Colombia-Uruguay game after, heartbreaking images we see of Darwin Núñez consoling his son on the field. We see players attacking fans and fans attacking players and whatever the case may be, who did it, why it happened, that's irrelevant. The rest of the world sees these barbaric acts. The rest of the world sees a country that's supposed to host the World Cup in less than 2 years and thinks, how are they equipped to do this? Do they not know the history of these two nations in South America and what happens in a Libertadores match and what can happen if you don't have the proper security and thinks this is okay? So while we live in this bubble, this small vacuum, the rest of the world does not, and they see what's going on. And that could be detrimental to the growth in the sport in this country.
God, what a dark, but I think important note for this to end on. I will say I've loved every second of what you've done on Football Americas. You're a magic man, Herc. It's been magical to live this journey out through your eyes. To you and to more. Hercules Gomez, thank you.
Raj, anytime. Thanks, my man.
Big love. Courage. Vamos.